how to destroy humans with your mind.
Oh, okay.
Have you ever been playing Monopoly and like you do that thing where you put the money for taxes or luxury tax or whatever in the middle?
No.
You never played Monopoly? Has you ever done that? And like when you land on free parking, whoever lands on free parking takes all the money in the middle. Okay, some people know about that. You played that way? No, that's not an official rule of the game. That it is called a house rule. A house rule is something that like just your specific house makes this rule. It's okay to play that way. I'm not saying anything wrong with it. I'm just saying it's one of those rules that like I've went to people's houses before to play Monopoly and they didn't play that way. And I'm like, what are you talking about? That's what you're supposed to do. And they didn't do that. So, anyway, they just gave that money to the bank. I thought it was a waste. But that's technically just a house rule. That's not one of the official rules. And you'll find that in games or just even in real life, a lot of people have their own house rules. Thank you, Jonathan. So I'm going to do a series here, and I'm going to call it House Rules, How to Live in the Family of God. You see, when Jesus came, what Jesus did is he introduced an entire new way of life to people. And he said, the world operates one way, but if you're a Christian, if you're someone who's in the family of God, you operate a different way. For example, tonight, what I'm going to talk about is how whenever someone wrongs you, there's a way that people in the rest of the world act when they're mistreated. And there's a way people in God's family act when they're mistreated. And those are two different ways. The way Christians act when they're mistreated is not supposed to be the way the rest of the world acts whenever they're mistreated. And you'll actually see a lot of people. If you go to school, you're going to have a lot of people who say, oh, I'm a Christian, because that's what's really popular to say in the United States of America. They'll say, I'm a Christian. But their life doesn't really reflect the values that Jesus taught when he taught how people in God's family are supposed to behave. So we're going to spend the next couple months talking about the house rules, the family rules that Jesus laid out. And what his family rules are, it's the kind of culture that we want to see Christians reflecting around the world, the kind of culture we want to see in our own homes, and the kind of culture we want to see in our own youth group. We want to reflect the values that Jesus taught us. So there's some rules that are the same no matter where you go. No matter whose house you're in, there's some rules that are kind of just blanket across all houses. Like, for example, you're not supposed to lie. Pretty much every home has a rule against lying. You're not supposed to take candy from strangers.
Yeah.
Did anyone take candy from strangers yesterday? Bad. No, not really. So there's some rules that all families will say. Don't play in the road. Then you also have rules that might just be specific to your family. Maybe things just that your parents told you. Like curfew at 10 o'clock. Some of their homes it might be 11 o'clock or 9 o'clock.
Don't throw the trash out of the wall.
Is that a rule at your house? Don't throw trash at the wall? Oh, okay. Yeah. It seemed kind of random if it wasn't.
Don't throw the trash at the wall.
Okay. Yeah, in my house it was stop biting your sister, So we all have our own specific rules to our house. I'm not saying I was the biter. I'm just saying that was a rule at my house.
No.
Now, whenever we get a new foster kid, we always have to kind of go over the house rules for this is what you do at our house. And we kind of have to break them in, like wash your hands after you go to the bathroom, all this kind of stuff. The rules for Luke's house. So every home has its own family rules. When I was at Cody and Whitney's house before, I noticed that they had a sign on their wall, and it said, our family rules. And it shows the values of their family right there. Like you can look at the family rules at the Belt family house, and what does that do? So when you look at the rules there, it shows you this is what's important at our house. This is what our values are. This is what's important to us. What's some things that are important to them? Say your prayers. Love each other. Always tell the truth. Just a few things right there. So the truth's important at their house. Saying your prayers. The food and blessing it is important at their house. Loving each other. So love's important at their house. So you look at the family rules and you see what's important to them. Well, every family has family rules. If you're in God's family, so does he. God has rules too. So let's start with one. I'm going to start with the real basic one that you find right in the 10 Commandments. I want to start with murder. I'm doing a sermon on murder tonight because I think this has become a serious problem here in the youth group. No, not really.
Oh, yeah.
He considers me a murderer because I killed the frog in the Undertale game. Because the frog attacked me in that game. And I thought, well, in most video games, if a creature attacks you, you slay it. And that is what I did. What? I know, you told me no one has to die, and I wasn't going to kill anyone, but he came and attacked me. So I know that now. I know. So, second Luke considers me a murderer because of that. Now, here's what the Bible says about murder. It's very simple. Exodus chapter 20, verse 13. Yes, that's the frog. May he rest in peace. You shall not murder. Okay, is that clear? Everyone's clear on that? Okay, you can go on home. Thanks for coming out tonight. No, but I want to mention one thing. Notice what it says, and notice what it does not say. Okay, because some people think that the commandment is supposed to be "you shall not kill," and Second Luke was actually asking me about this not too long ago. A lot of people think, well, does that mean we aren't allowed to go in the military or something like that because there's killing there? Does that mean that killing is wrong? No. And I just want to make a distinction here. What it says there is you shall not murder. So there are justified killings and there are unjustified killings. There's justifiable reasons to take someone's life and there's unjustifiable reasons. So two people who were soldiers in warfare, I was thinking about Brady because he's always wearing the camo. And I know you live the military stuff. So, two soldiers on the battlefield fighting, depending what they're fighting for, but assuming it's good reasons, that is not murder. Like that is regular. Murder is like an illegal or unjustified taking of someone's life. So, two soldiers on the battlefield, that's not necessarily murder. No, murdering is just whenever it's a wrongful killing. So, if one person attacks another, and this person reacts in self-defense and ends up killing them, that would not be considered murder in God's eyes because they were just trying to protect their own life. Like they were shooting at me and I shot back and they died. So that's self-defense. So, right, they started it and then that just ended up being what happened to them. So there's justified types of killing and there's unjustified types of killing. Unjustified killing is called murder. Now that is a very serious sin in the Bible. The reason murder is bad, and by the way, I was saying all that to say it's okay if you join the military, or some people say, well, Christians shouldn't become police officers because they might have to shoot someone. It's okay to become a police officer. I hope you would never actually have to take someone's life, justified or not. I just hope it would never be a situation where it would come to that. But it's okay to do those kind of jobs. The reason I wouldn't want you to be in that position, though, is all life is precious. And that's what murder removes. Whenever someone kills another person, they're removing a precious life, a sacred life. And we only have one life. And so it's really important to preserve that. Murdering someone removes them from this world. Okay, so we have that command, thou shalt not murder. That was given to Moses. Now, 1,500 years later, Jesus arrives on the scene. And Jesus takes this command and he intensifies it. He makes it even bigger. You might say, well, how do you make the murder command even bigger? Well, here's what he said. Matthew 5:21 and 22. I think he's trying to comfort the owl. That's the way I took it. So here's what Jesus said about this command about murder. He said, you have heard it said that it was said to the people long ago, you shall not murder, and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with his brother will be subject to judgment. Angry? Like, what's so bad about being angry? Now, it's not always bad to be angry, but sometimes being angry at the right stuff, that can be a good thing. But when is anger a bad thing? Well, I want to be real specific here about what Jesus meant when he said this word angry. And the words of Jesus were written in the Greek language. So if we look at the Greek language word for what angry means, the word angry there is orgizo. And it means anger that smolders internally day after day, after week, after month. That's what this kind of angry, this orgizo anger that gets inside of you and just like smolders and keeps getting hotter and hotter, and you don't put out the fire, you just keep letting it stay there. That's the kind of anger he's talking about. So when you're angry with someone and you just dwell on the bitter feelings and keep churning it up inside and getting madder and madder and madder, not letting it go, what he's talking about right there is hatred. That's really what it means. It's hatred. Because some people would think, well, what I feel towards someone doesn't matter. Like, as long as I don't kill them, I'm okay. But Jesus came along and he said, actually, no. If you just have anger at someone that turns into hatred and you just dwell on that hatred, in Jesus' eyes, that's the same as being a murderer. He said, if you're just angry with someone, you just dwell on that anger and just let it smolder and intensify. He said, that's basically like killing someone in your heart. He said, he looks at that like murder because God cares about what's in our heart. So, I heard this story this week that there was a lady and she was on her 75th anniversary. And someone said to her, like at the anniversary party, they're like, 75 years, like that's amazing that you've been married that long. Did you ever even consider divorce? Did you ever even think about divorce? And she says, divorce? No way. Now murder, yeah, sometimes, but never divorce. As Christians, we need to guard ourselves against this emotion of hatred for other people. Because it actually can happen. Even if you're a Christian, you can have feelings of hatred get stirred up inside of you. It can build up in anybody. Someone who's really annoying, if you have a job, someone who's really annoying at work and won't leave you alone. Or someone who's a jerk at school to you and gives you a reason to be angry with them every day. They're always being a jerk to you. Or someone who just runs you down all the time and makes you feel like crap. And you just can't even get away with them. Like maybe you live with them. Someone who just, treats you that way. It can be easy to just, okay, the anger's never going away. It's always getting stirred up again. It's always getting stirred up again. Always getting madder. So, whatever the case, we're not above feeling anger that can turn into hatred toward other people. We're not like above that. So we have to guard ourselves against it because the lifestyle that Jesus wants us to have in our lives, at our church here, in our homes, he wants us to have a lifestyle where we don't let anger smolder and we don't hate people. That's what he wants us to do. And we go and talk to them if we're upset with them and put things behind us as fast as possible. So, signs of hate. I want to just give you a few signs of hate before I go. What I did was I basically went to 1 Corinthians chapter 13. That is the chapter of the Bible that's all about...
Death.
No? Good guess. It's all about... That's the very famous love chapter of the Bible. So I basically went to 1 Corinthians 13, where it talks all about what love is. And I just thought, well, the opposite of love is hate. So what is the opposite of all these things of what it means to love someone? So I just took the things from that and I kind of condensed them down to this. Hate is impatient and unkind towards someone. Hate is jealous when something good happens to another person. Like if you have this anger that turns into hate toward a person and something good happens to them, then you can't be happy for them. You just feel jealous toward them. Hate makes you dwell on yourself and how you feel. Because love is always about making you actually think towards other people. Hate makes you just dwell on yourself. That would be a miserable way to live. Okay, hate keeps a record of wrongs. That means that when you hate someone, you just keep a list of all the things that they do that you dislike. Hate can't delight in someone, but is just full of bitterness. Okay? So I'm about to close down, but I would just say all this because if you see those signs showing up in your own life about how you feel towards someone, like maybe you say, yeah, I feel like this towards someone. Maybe it's someone who's a jerk to you at school or something like that. There's lots of jerks in school. All right, if you start feeling that feeling towards a person, that's when you know, okay, I need to step back. I need to pray. And I say, God, I know my heart's not right toward this person. And God, I know I can't have peace with you till I have peace with them. That's what you got to say. And that could mean forgiving them, or that could mean talking to them about your problem with them. But I want to nail one quick objection before we go. Because here's what some people would think. I'm talking about all this anger and hatred and all that. Hold up just a minute. I'm really almost done. But I know what some of you might be thinking is this. Maybe I have a really, really good reason to be mad at that person. Like I have a really good reason to even hate them. I have a really good reason to be mad at them. I know you probably do. Like you probably absolutely do. But that's not what the point is. It's not about them. It's about you. It's about what's going on in your heart. It's about having peace with God. See, I've only been on this world I'm going on 28 years. But here's something that I know. When you're upset with somebody and you kind of have this little courtroom thing play out in your head, and you think about their defense, and you think about your defense, and you think about what they did and what you did, you're always going to find them guilty, and you're always going to find yourself innocent. It's going to happen like that every time, but it's not about them. It's about you. It's about what's going on in your heart.